What up, what up, what up? Happy To Go Thursday. We're your hosts, Miriah and Steph. Steph, good to see you. How you doing?
I am good. I'm good. How are you, Miriah?
Good, good. Hanging in there. Good to be back. I thought we were back, and then, my ass had to screw it up last week, but we're back this time, chat, for real. um, but at least, it gives us some stuff like, I got questions from Broncos week. Obviously, you were there. Before we get into the whole nitty gritty, well, chat, what's up? Hope everybody's doing wonderful. Happy To Go Thursday to you all. Almost the weekend. Hang in there. Um, Before we get into, like too much of, what's went on through the practices and everything, I want to ask you something that I saw brought up after the joint practices with the Broncos.
I think I know where this is going.
Then again, I see it brought up today after the joint practices with the Raiders. And so someone who obviously was at those practices with the Broncos, who's been at training, camp practices throughout the years. I kind of want to get your thoughts, opinions, what you have seen on how the 49ers prepare for practice. Do they just come out and get right into the nitty gritty? Are they spending time getting warmed up, stretching? Because the reports is that the Broncos during the practices, the Broncos had spent time stretching prior to obviously getting into practice, and that the 49ers did not. It's again reported today at the Raiders practice, the same thing. The Raiders spent time, stretching, getting prepared for practice, and the 49ers did not. So let me get your thoughts on that, Steph.
I literally asked Desi about this like an hour ago, and as you know, her being an expert in this field, I wanted to get her thoughts because honestly, I don't know, right? I've seen different opinions from different people, but what does research show on this? I think if it were that simple that the 49ers doing dynamic stretching versus static, if it were that simple that made the difference, I think they would have figured that out a long time ago. I don't think what's happening with all the injuries is one thing. It's probably maybe a number of small things.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, the 49ers, there's maybe 15 to 30 minutes before practice begins where players come out on their own accord. They come out and they do their own stretches and their own preparation for the day as individually, however long they want to. Some guys come in or go out pretty early out there and start doing their thing. Some go out right before practice starts. And I'm sure some guys maybe even do some weight room stuff. I don't know, because we're not able to see what goes on in there. But so they do stuff on their own for 15 to 30 minutes, I'd say, before practice starts. Then once practice starts, that's when, as a team, they go through, I guess, what's being called as dynamic stretching, which is, warming up the body and things like that. Static stretching is things where you're in a certain pose, right? You're stretching pose for however long, for a little bit. It's static, right? So, I did notice that the Broncos do it differently. I would say that I think it's better personally, for me, when I work out, and again, I'm not an expert in this field, but when I work out, I like to kind of progressively ramp myself up to get to full, when I go on runs, I start with static and then I move into more dynamic stuff before my runs. So it just seems like the 49ers kind of go straight into dynamic. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way. But what's funny, this is hilarious. I actually want to post about it, that I was looking at the pictures from today's practice, and Kim, right, the photographer for the 49ers, one of the pictures that's on the site for today was taken by her, as I see here. And it looks like the 49ers are static stretching. So I can send you the link, Miriah, but I'm literally looking at a photo of them static stretching, and I know for a fact they do, the dynamic stuff too. So I think this is a nothing burger. I also want to know though why the injuries are taking place and why it seems to be an every year thing. But I don't think it's this static versus dynamic discussion. Yeah, I don't think it's that simple.
I think it's to the point where everybody is fed up with the fucking injuries. So we're like trying to grasp at anything that we see, like, okay, this is different. This might be it. Okay, maybe this is it. Because we just want answers. Like, why is it every day? Like, I was just talking to Steph before we went live. And, I was telling her, like, I was preparing for this show, writing down the injury report for today, yada, yada, like a whole page long, right? And as I'm like searching the 49ers injuries, like injuries are popping up from throughout the week that I even missed. Like there's so many injuries each day. Like I can't even keep up with it anymore. Like every single day that I open the social media, the 49ers reports, whatever it is 49ers injuries. Like,
yeah.
It's to the point where like we're running out of we're having to sign people I've never even fucking heard of, Steph.
I'm surprised they were able to have a joint practice today, honestly.
Yeah. Like I really thought Kyle was going to cancel it because we've seen this before, right? Kyle canceled the joint practice because we don't even have enough players to practice. Like we're keeping out our, like think about for the O-line, for example. Trent Williams, obviously, he's not going to be out there doing joint practices in 100+ degree weather, right? So like then look who we have on the O-line in his spot. We have guards playing tackle. We have no swing tackle. Like it's just so bad. Like how oh my God, it's just disgusting. Like I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. Like the Andre Dillard, for example, like got hurt at the beginning. Like
I don't know what happened
literally there. Bring him back. He practices for 2 days. Now he's on IR. Like what? It's bizarre stuff. I just don't, and then obviously that there's we might as well talk about the injuries from today since, we're talking about injuries. Obviously the CJ West scare, he goes down with a knee injury. They're calling in hyperextended knee. They're saying the initial testing, there's no ACL damage. So it's pretty much the same thing Mykel Williams got last week. So now both of them are out with the same injury. Then Bosa, has hardly practiced from what reports are sounding like throughout this entire training camp. Now he's out with what they're saying is a sore neck, like neck soreness. Like initially I'm thinking, okay, well, Bosa's being kept out because we know when he's active in the practices, like the offense literally can't do anything because he's wreaking havoc the entire time, right? And, okay, it gives the guys behind him a chance to practice and whatever, but now neck soreness, like what is this? Like, is this something to be concerned about? Who knows? Because the 49ers are like, don't fucking tell us shit. Then you got Ben Barch, left guard, who's now out with the elbow, not practicing. It's just like, am I missing anybody else from today, Steph? Because I literally can't keep up.
There was a super long list of players that didn't practice today, but a lot of those have been carryovers, right? Like it's players that have been missing for quite some time. Bosa, I'm not worried about him. I think they're wanting to be cautious with him. I think he has practiced a pretty good amount throughout camp, and I saw him a number of times. He does get his regular vet days, and then when he was dealing with soreness, general soreness, I believe like last week, I think they purposefully kind of held him out a couple days extra just to make sure he was ready for the Broncos joint practice, which he was. So yeah, I think they're just being cautious. Things like that you don't want to have worsen. Like there's no reason for Nick Bosa to be participating in training camp other than like ramping up for the season, which there's still time to do, and he's been doing that, So I think same thing with Upton Stout, who was also dealing with some soreness, and he didn't practice today again. So I do think they're wanting to be cautious. That also means some of these are real injuries, like legit injuries that are going to keep guys out. But I think, it's the time of the year where you're not wanting to push guys either. Like, you want to make sure they're 100% before they get out there, because once you get into the season, guys are going out there at like sub 100%. Like, you're not 100% at any point in the season once it gets rolling, right? And that's just kind of a given. So now is kind of that chance to, I guess, milk it a little bit. But yeah, I think especially for the young players, the rookies who have gone down with injuries, like, that sucks, because it does hurt the development a little bit. It does stump any progress maybe that they had made. It stops it in its tracks, and then when they come back, they kind of have to rebuild that. But yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal. I'm worried about it at this point, and just because it's injuries, it's more injuries than guys coming back. So they're just like, they're losing more guys than guys are coming back, and I don't know how sustainable that is at this point.
This comment by Rob here, as we talked about, like, this, obviously, if you're a 49ers fan, this is an ongoing thing, season after season after season. Rob says, any corporation in the world that has a department with this kind of track record, the department head would be fired, whether their fault or not. When do the 49ers start making changes? Like, when do we start looking inwards and like, there's somebody whose sole purpose is to keep these guys fucking healthy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of people, I think, involved in that. It isn't just one person, right?
Exactly.
There's a whole team dedicated to that. So I feel like they have. So the 49ers have had this issue before. It feels like at this point, at least a decade. And
longer
they have
than Kyle. Like,
no, really, and they have made changes. Like, the current strength and conditioning coach has been here since 2019. Like, if you think about it, that's not that long, and it makes sense after maybe the 2018 season. But yeah, maybe internally they are thinking about it, but a change like that wouldn't happen until the end of the season, unfortunately, right? So
that guy would have been, figure he keeps his job or whoever throughout this season. So you got all of 19, 2020 was a disaster. 2021, 2022, like all these years now stacking up that the team's been injured every single season. And of course, this is football. All teams deal with injuries, right? Like, we're not stupid, but it just seems like the 49ers have like a large amount of injuries, and they haven't even started playing yet. Like,
yeah, I know.
You can't even get to the fucking field. Like, oh my God. It's just it's so frustrating. All right, let's talk. Obviously, the 49ers, have to start signing some players because, as Steph said, we keep losing players and not enough players are coming back. A signing that we made the other day that I kind of want to get your thoughts on, and I listened to him speak to the press before the show, and something like, that I want to talk to you about too, what he said. Jeff Wilson Jr. obviously coming back to the Bay. He had talked about in his presser that, he had been in a bad place. Obviously, probably, not being with a team yet, come to the start of the season's creeping up, not knowing if you're going to have a job, if, whatever. And that when the rumors started coming out, obviously that he tried out for the 49ers and that a possible return to the Bay, he said that a lot of the faithful reached out to him in DMs, in comments, whatever, saying like, hey, we love you, come back, we want you here, yada, yada, yada. He said even coaches, teammates, whatnot, all reached out to him. And he had said, like, people never know what somebody's going through, and you send those kind of messages to somebody. And he said, like, it really made him like, like get into a better place, like made him happy that like people wanted him, that he was still wanted, that the faithful still loved him after everything and all that. And I thought like that was pretty awesome to hear, because like we don't get to hear like players actually be like that vulnerable with us, like talking about, like it's so like these guys are supposed to always be like the guys, like they play sports. And, something I always talk about in my shows a lot is like the mental side of, what these guys have to go through. And a lot of them don't talk about it, and so for him to come out and say that, like, I thought it was pretty cool. And, shout out to the faithful for actually, coming through and, showing him like that we do care and we did appreciate his time here in the Bay. What are your thoughts on Jeff Wilson Jr. coming back? And do you think that, with the injuries or, just with what you've seen from the entire running back room throughout training camp, do you think he has a chance to make this team?
No, not really. I think so. Jordan James, I think he'll probably be back before the cut down to 53. I would think, he had like a week or two left. Isaac Garendo, kind of the same thing, right? So I think those guys will be coming around that time. So, their spots are safe. And then I think, to me, for that fifth spot, and we're lumping, Juice into the running backs, right? So the fifth spot is going to go to either Patrick Taylor, Corey Kiner, Jeff Wilson Jr. I mean, like, Jeff Wilson Jr. has like a pretty steep climb to make this roster, just unless he comes in and, he already has experience with the playbook and things like that. So maybe he looks the part, but I think right now it'd probably either go to Taylor or Kiner.
Maybe, like they still do that, right? Where you keep the veterans on the practice squad.
Yeah.
Maybe with, with, the way that he was welcomed and, all that, maybe, he does want to stick around, and rather than being nowhere or being, like somewhere that you don't want to be, or, whatever the hell, at least you're somewhere that, that appreciates you, that you have the history with. So maybe he'll stick around on the practice squad. Let's talk. Who else did we sign? D-line, William Bradley King and Damon Harris. What do we know about those guys, Steph? Anything? Do any of these signings, Steph? Is any of these guys making the team, or they're just getting us through?
I don't know anything about them.
I did look up. Let me see.
So this one's tough. Like, the defensive line has a lot of injuries. And again, I think most of them, like for most of these guys, it's not going to be anything that'll keep them from making the 53. I'm a little worried about Jordan Elliott. Like, he's missed a lot of time.
I haven't heard about him.
Yeah, I think he has a back injury or something like that. So, those can linger. Yetur Gross-Matos hasn't participated like really at all throughout camp. And so those are two guys that I'm like, in normal circumstances, you feel like they'd make the roster, but do they end up on IR, the PUP list? That's kind of what I'm wondering. I think they keep usually like 10 guys, right? So you got, I think out of the bubble guys, who has the best chance of making it, Sebastian Valdez right now is making a case for himself. I got to say, like, I'm forgetting his first name. Ane, he was the guy that recently put on IR. They just put him on IR.
I thought he was looking good, right? He looked good in the preseason game.
He was looking really good in the training camp practices. He's a speed rush guy, and he looked good in the preseason game. So I was like, I kind of want to see Ane go up against better competition in the next preseason game. Like, maybe like with the twos, have him out there. And if he looks good with them, I'd have him on the roster over Robert Bale Jr. That's not a choice anymore. So, like, again, like, the injuries just kind of complicate things. But yeah, I think Sebastian Valdez is making a serious case for himself. but also you have a lot of defensive tackles ahead of him still on the depth chart. So that's what I'm saying. Like if Jordan Elliott ends up, for example, if he ends up on the I guess so. I'm looking at the 90-man depth chart, and this is David Lombardi's depth chart. He says, okay, he just put trade candidate for some reason for Jordan Elliott. Okay, sure. Kevin Givens said it won't count against the 53. So is maybe Kevin Givens on the pup? Can't keep track of all these injuries.
Yeah,
Truly,
you got to be on something.
Yeah, he's probably on something, right? So that then maybe allows Sebastian Valdez to make the roster, right? And maybe Lombardi's saying that Jordan Elliott's a trade candidate because you have Kalia Davis, who I thought looked good in the preseason game. You have CJ West and Alfred Collins, who you're obviously not. They're making the roster, right?
Right.
So who then? In Jordan Elliott's place, again, Valdez would be my pick. Then Evan Anderson, also another defensive tackle. So yeah, they have a lot of choices. I think the guys that they've signed this week are mostly depth guys. They're not going to make the 53. There's just no way.
Let's talk. Let's do the same thing. Wide receiver, obviously another position that seems to every day I wake up, a wide receiver's hurt. Obviously the 49ers recently signed Malik Turner. Jennings still out. Like the wide receivers that we currently have active is a crazy list.
Yeah. It's
like what have you seen from the guys that have been active throughout training camp, Steph? And who do you think is making this roster?
I think there's only been like 2 or 3 guys that have been healthy like all of camp.
That's ridiculous.
Of the guys that I think will make the roster. Well, I'll say this, like Pearsall, when he came back, like he's looked great since then. I think he's going to have a monster season, and he's going to get a lot of targets, and him and Brock seem to have really good chemistry. So I feel good about where Pearsall's at. Demarcus Robinson, I think, is a super reliable target. I think he's built trust with the quarterbacks, both Purdy and Mack. So he's someone you can definitely skate by with, like, even if you got other guys like Brandon Ayuk unavailable, maybe even if you don't have Jawan Jennings, like Demarcus Robinson could be a guy who can get himself open and be reliable for a quarterback. So I like what I've seen from him. The question that's, gonna still remains is when is that suspension gonna come down for him?
Yeah.
And then I'll skip over Jordan Watkins since he's currently hurt, but love what I've seen from him. Yeah. So hopefully he's not out for too long. Russell Gage, I think, is just one of those very, again, I'm going to use the word reliable, just kind of like a Chris Conley type where when you need him, he's going to come through. He's not this flashy guy. Like you're not excited about him being one of the guys on your roster, but there's going to be moments where you're damn sure glad that he's there and he makes a play for your team. Like that's what I've seen from him in training camp. And so that's great. I mean, he's kind of having a bit of a resurgence after, what was it, the ACL injury like from 2 years ago or something. So yeah, he seems to have fit in pretty nice. So he's making the 53 for sure. And then from there, I think, so assuming they keep 8 wide receivers, I think Junior Bergen probably has the inside track to make the roster, either Bergen or Robbie Chosen. Because I only say Robbie Chosen because, like, he's mentioned, I don't know, Kyle Shanahan has kind of mentioned him as having like a better chance of making the 53-man this time around than he did last year. And if that tells you anything about where the wide receiver room is at right now.
Right.
Junior Bergen, I think his value comes in special teams.
And that's
He's
why I
not.
hope he makes it. Like what we saw in the
Yeah, look
preseason, or
good.
like just that one return, I'm like, shit, we can even just get one of those a game. Like I'm freaking
Exactly.
happy.
If his special teams value, him returning is going to be that big of a difference. Like if it's going to move the needle enough, then he'll make the roster off of that alone.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it is yet. Like I don't know. Like if he does it again in one of these preseason games, then I think you're like, whoa, we might have something here. He has to make the 53, But I think right now it's still up in the air. But yeah, we'll see. He was a 7th round pick, so I think they'd feel comfortable, letting him walk and see if he makes the practice squad because of that. But
I hope not.
Unless he shows, I think that you can't risk that because he's too much of a value at special teams.
I'd rather risk losing freaking Chosen.
Right. Yeah.
That nobody has showed they wanted.
Yeah. And historically, though, like for some reason, the 49ers don't always look at it that way with their final cut.
Unfortunately.
But,
yeah. What's up, Ty? My brother from another. I hope you're doing well. Much love. Much love. All right. The 49ers signed a couple cornerbacks. So let's go through the same with the cornerback stuff because another position group that it seems we're running low on. Let me pull up these names of these two guys. I had looked them up. We got Micah Abraham, who most recently played for the St. Louis Battlehawks. And then we have Jones. What was his first name? Jones.
No idea.
I don't know, but he played. He was on the Jets and got waived, and then he most recently played for the St. Louis Battlehawks as well. So we'll see about those guys. But what's the cornerback room? What did you see from them throughout training camp so far, Steph? And how's it looking?
Yeah, I think Dallas Flowers has looked pretty good as like the third cornerback behind Lenoir Green, I'd say. And so when Green's been out, he's been the guy that's been in there. And I like what I see from him. I think Upton Stout, obviously, like he's a nickel corner, right? Chase Lucas saw great things from him in that preseason game. So he'll definitely make the roster, and he'll have a role, I think, on this team, even if he's not the starting nickel. I think the question becomes, okay, where does Darrell Luter fit in all this? I still think he has the edge to make the roster just because if you think about some of the other guys behind him, Trey Brown, Jacob Robinson, Fabian Moreau, and then the guys you mentioned who I like anyone who's getting signed this week has a real uphill battle to make the 53, right? Unless they just play lights out, which they could, who knows? But as of right now, I'm not penciling any of them in to make this roster. I think Darrell Luter still has a chance to make this team. And I think, honestly, like he's shown enough that I think he should. And he's not going to be the third guy. I already said that's Dallas Flowers. But he's going to be depth on this team. And I think what he's shown so far is good enough to be depth on this team.
Which is good because that's like he needs time to grow, like I think he's shown enough that like I don't want to risk losing him or give up on him, but like, if he's down the depth chart, at least that gives him time to sit behind these guys, learn, and hopefully by the time if we need him, knowing this team, we probably will need him some point in the season, that he'll be ready. But yeah. What about safeties, Steph? Because another position group that, like we have tons of injuries all of a sudden. Like, what have you seen from them?
I actually want to see if Pinnock practiced today because I saw that he left.
I don't think he did.
Okay, he left yesterday's practice early, and then suddenly the safety group is very concerning because really the only healthy guys you have is Marquez Siegel and Jair Brown. So Yeah,
Yeah,
Pinnock
that's who they said
didn't.
were starting. Yeah.
You're right.
The
Pinnock
first
didn't
group today.
practice today. So, and Richie Grant's still hurt. So that's not great. I'm surprised they haven't signed another safety. Have they? They
I
haven't.
know. I don't think so.
I think to me, like, that tells me that they like Siegel a lot, probably. Otherwise, they probably would sign someone else. I mean, if they keep 4 or 5 safeties, you're gonna have Mustafa. I think Richie Grant will make the roster. Jason Pinnock, I think,
Yeah.
Pinnock would probably start. I think it's between Pinnock, Marquez Siegel, and Jair Brown, at least to start week 1. 2 of those 3 will start in week 1. Siegel looked really good in the first preseason game, and I think they want to put him. I don't know if they plan to put him against better competition, but with the injuries, now they're getting that chance to see him against the first team or with the first team, and you'll probably see that in the preseason game. So if he performs well, then he has a really great chance to make a case to stay the starter at safety or one of the 2 spots.
Yeah, it says Pinnock's dealing with a heel issue, so I don't know. Hopefully, because I've liked what I've seen from him so far. So hopefully, that's nothing serious. I don't know about no heel injuries, but yeah. A couple guys, we don't have to like go through all these position groups, but a couple guys that you did bring up that I kind of want to talk about. Kalia Davis, like he's somebody that like I was so super excited when, the 49ers drafted him, and then obviously he was hurt. And then it's like every time he comes back, it's injury after injury after injury, so far it seems all reports like, and even him speaking, like talked about how much, him being healthy for this training camp has helped him. And do you like what have you seen from him? And do you think it's enough that he would possibly have a starting, like that he'd be in the starting spots? Or like where do you think he ranks in this depth chart?
Yeah, with all the injuries, it's been really hard to gauge, I guess, where guys fit in now. I mean, because as of right now, I would say CJ West, right? If he's healthy, he's going to be a starter. But let's say, for example, Jordan Elliott is healthy, like he's going to start over CJ West, I think, but they're going to rotate guys more than they have in the last couple of years anyway. So whoever's starting, I guess, doesn't really mean as much as it did. But could I see him starting? Yes, like some games. I'm sure it'll change, as far as who starts. CJ West, I could see Alfred Collins getting some starts down the line, maybe later in the season once he's a little more comfortable. We may see Evan Anderson, get some starts, maybe Kevin Givens. Like I don't know. Like it's been really hard to gauge because like there's been at least 1 or 2 defensive tackles hurt like throughout
like
all of camp. And so I don't know if they have, even when Jordan Elliott's back, do they have Jordan Elliott ahead of other guys still, or have guys like CJ West, have they kind of surpassed them? I don't know. It's hard to kind of figure that out. But Kalia Davis, I think, looked really good in the preseason game. I think he's had some good stuff in training camp. So it definitely feels like this is a season where he's put it all together. And I think because he's been healthy, that it's kind of allowed him to get more comfortable and in a rhythm with everything. Yeah. So it's definitely helping him out right now. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him too, because I think I always knew he had some talent, like you could see it. It's there. Yep. It's just like a lot of untapped potential because he can't stay on the field. So hopefully he could stay on it this year.
Yeah, yes. What's up, John V? Let's talk a little bit about special teams. Obviously, the Jake Moody competition seemed to come to an end. A lot of people don't think that he actually won the competition. So let me get your thoughts on that, as well as what have you seen a difference from, like, maybe the special, I don't know how much you guys get to see, special teams during, or you pay attention to special teams during training camp. But I guess I'm looking, has there been a difference with special teams this year under, the new special teams coordinator compared to previous years, what you have seen?
Yeah, hard to say. I don't normally pay too much attention to special teams in practice as far as like when they're practicing like coverage and things like that. But as far as, the kicking competition, I think they took an entirely different approach to it this year. It did feel more like an actual competition, and trying to simulate pressure within these competitions where you couldn't ignore it if you wanted to. It's the only thing happening. All eyes are on both kickers as they make these kicks, including, the entire team, no pressure, right? So I appreciated that from it. And so, yeah, I think Brant Boyer was really trying to figure out who was going to be, the guy that stood out. On that, I still don't think either of them really won the job convincingly, like either of them. But I also don't think either of them lost it. Like they were still kind of just neck and neck. And Jake Moody only missed one less kick than I already forgot who they had brought in.
Yeah, me too.
Kicker. Greg Joseph. He'd only missed one more than Greg Joseph. So the one thing with Moody is like, and I'm still not convinced on him, is that even the kicks he does make are almost misses. Like they just barely go in, and you're like, oh, thank God. But wow, that could have been bad. So he tends to do that a lot. They always kind of shift to one side, like I want to say it usually goes to the left. And then I was listening to the Tim K and Barrow's podcast, and they were talking about how he has the tendency to like overcorrect. Like if he misses in one direction, on one kick, he's gonna try to overcorrect, and then suddenly he like nearly misses from the other side. So it's clearly that's still something that's a thing with him, which is why I'm not convinced that this is gonna be something that sticks. He's been very consistent since he's been the only one there, like since they let Joseph go. But to me, it's like he's always been a good practice kicker. So exactly. I don't take any of this with much weight. And in fact, I think the closest thing to simulating the pressure of the game was the pressure of being in the competition with Greg Joseph. And he was missing some kicks, during that portion. That competition. So was Greg Joseph. So I like that doesn't make anyone feel any better. But yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if they have to bring in a kicker like once the season gets going. We'll see how he looks in actual games. He didn't have any field goal attempts in the first preseason game, just extra point, which he made. But yeah, hopefully he'll get more opportunities in the next two to, make some field goals.
I would wish that if they aren't, that, like you said, they'll probably end up bringing in somebody else. Like, do it now. Like, like at least give them one last preseason game and practice too. Because like you said, Jake Moody has always been excellent during practice. And if you're barely making them in practice right now, like I'm not, you're not, like, and it's like he supposedly changed up the way he does shit, and like it's gonna make this difference, and yet you're still barely making them in practice. Like, you should be nailing this shit straight down the fucking center. Like,
I mean, he has some kicks like that. Just not everyone. Which I guess maybe that's normal for other kickers. I don't.
Like, you got undrafted guys doing this shit on other teams.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you were supposed to be the number one fucking kicker,
that's
like coming
saying.
out. Like,
the expectations for him are maybe a little out of control, maybe a little unrealistic, but that's only because of where he was drafted. Who drafted him there? The 49ers. They put this on him, you know, like can only blame them. But yeah, I guess we'll see where it goes. I do understand Kyle Shanahan's reasoning for letting go of Greg Joseph because they were dealing with a lot of injuries. Given that having two kickers on your roster doesn't.
Oh, is that why?
Pretty much is what he said. Like, hey, like we have needs at other spots because guys are getting hurt, and you know we can't really afford to have two kickers. Like, you know, because we need guys at other positions. So that was kind of his stance, and he kind of made it also seem like the door's still open for there to be some movement there if they feel like they need it. So, like, if Jake Moody did show signs of regression and that he can't be trusted, then I think they would, you know, make a move at some point to bring another kicker in. But I think right now it's fine. He's going to have a very short leash, though, I think, once the season gets going.
Any position players, position groups that, Steph, you feel when the very first day that you sat down, you know, that you ran your ass there late to training camp, you know, couldn't see shit, that have risen from that point to this point that we haven't talked about yet, that you think, you know, they have done a great job through the first preseason game, through training camp, you know, whether it's first year, second year, third year, whatever, that we haven't talked about yet?
I feel like we've covered just about like everyone that has been consistent throughout camp. I think the guys who kind of started to come along a little bit more towards the end of what I saw, and then also in the preseason game, was Connor Colby and Drew Moss. Like, I think both of those guys, there was a certain point in that preseason game, watching it back, they were the only two I could bear to watch because everything else on the offense was just so awful. I couldn't even. So I was just watching them, and I was like, you know what, like, you know, they're holding up really well, and I'm glad to hear that Connor Colby is getting some opportunity at left guard with the first team because Ben Barch has missed the last two. So that could be a good opportunity for him, and maybe we see him start on Saturday. That'd be a really good test, you know, to really see what they have in him. That'd be a nice surprise. But Nick Zakelj, not it. He's not it. Yeah, for rookies to kind of be outplaying him, I think
he's gonna be a Pro Bowler, Steph. So watch out.
Yeah, man. Man. But no, I mean, I'm excited about a lot of the rookies on this team. I think that's been my biggest takeaway of, you know, I think training camp so far in the first preseason game.
Which is good because leading up to this, we talked about how there was a lot of pressure being put on these rookies because all we were hearing about was these rookies need to step up. This team, you know, is going to be dependent on these rookies. So if the rookies have done good, you know, hopefully that's a sign of, you know, that these guys are going to be ready when the time comes, which will probably be sooner than later. What about the opposite direction, Steph? Has any of these guys, you know, fallen that maybe you thought, well, this guy probably has a good chance of making this team, and now you're looking at him like not so much?
Trying to think. I mean, I think Nick Zakelj, not that I had huge expectations for him, but I did feel like this year was probably his best chance, and there was like that window you could tell like the team kind of wanted to give him a shot, and you know, I don't think he's really shown anything there. I was a little disappointed in the tight ends. Like, performance in the preseason game. I definitely want to see better from them, particularly from the blocking standpoint. Yeah. But you know what's weird is like Brandon Willis, not the best blocker. In practice, he's been catching balls more often. Like he's a pretty common target in like for the second, third team. But yeah, I mean, we didn't see that in the preseason game. So all we see is like the blocking. And I don't think any of them were, particularly good. And so that was a little disappointing. And it just kind of underlines that George Kittle is maybe still, I mean, obviously he's the best tight end on the team, but it just sucks. The difference is so stark. I mean, even Luke Farrell, there was a play where Luke Farrell was supposed to get the block on Nick Bonito, right, from the Broncos on the edge. And he completely whiffed on it. It ended up being, I think it was one of the sacks. So not great. That was literally the guy they signed because he was such a great blocker, right? So I'm like,
hopefully he's just a little rusty.
Yeah, and Nick Bonito is a great player, like Pro Bowl player.
I liked him coming out,
yeah, second team All Pro, I believe. So yeah, good player, but I mean, you still want your blocking tight end to be able to get that, especially for how much this team kind of talked them up to be able to do that. We know Kittle could probably do it.
Yeah.
We just want someone else who can do it too, so that Kittle can run a route.
Especially if he's going to need to be our number one receiving, threat to start the season. We kind of need somebody else who can block because Kittle can't do everything.
Yeah, exactly. Can't be everywhere at once.
Looking at this game on Saturday, Steph, Kyle said, Brock could play a couple series, obviously maybe some of the other starters. We'll see who's actually healthy to play. But what are you looking to see from this game Saturday, Steph?
I'm looking to see that no one gets hurt more than anything. Like,
right.
I'll be praying for that. Like, that's where we're at, right? Like, I'm not even like, yes, I'm going to be looking for players to stand out, but like my number one wish is just that we see everyone come out of that game healthy. That is it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely anyone who had a strong first preseason game, I want to see them build off of that. Like Marquez Siegel, if he's gonna, be getting reps with the first team with the first team defense, I want to see how he holds up with better competition going up against, first team offense, right? Which technically at some points he did last week, I guess, because the Broncos played their offensive starters for a good portion of it. But still, I guess more of a sample size, I'd feel really good if I see that. And then just other guys like Connor Colby, for example, if he gets the start, how is he going to do against better competition? I do hope we see Drew Moss a little bit earlier, right? Anyone who looked good on Saturday, put them in there a little bit earlier and see how they do. That's what I'm going to be looking for. I think the running backs had a tough go, like Kiner and Patrick Taylor. There towards the end, I think Kiner had some good looks and he had some good runs. But I really want to see them have a better game. That's going to be dependent on, also the quarterback looking decent as well. So I hope the quarterback plays a little bit better this time, just so we can actually see the offense a little more and have some more takeaways there. But let's see. I want to see Nick Martin look a little better. He's another guy that I think maybe I was expecting a little bit more from him out the gate, just because a lot of the other rookies have looked good right out the gate, right? So Nick Martin still needs to kind of reel it in a little bit. So maybe, hopefully, he could do that in the second preseason game. We'll see. But I think Tatum Bethune has looked pretty good. And so I'd have him above Nick Martin, of course. So, but yeah, anyone who looked good, hopefully they could be better or just as good. And yeah, I'm excited for all the rookies.
Yeah, same. Before we get out of here, let's answer this question from Foot. It says, Steph and Miriah, give me 2 games the Niners shouldn't lose this season that you believe they will.
Oh, I know I had one at least that I thought of when the schedule came out. It was the Giants game. Don't kill me, but I think that game week 9 against the Giants on the road, second game in a row that they'll be on the road. Early body clock games, so 2 early body clock games in a row. I think they'll handle it against the Texans, but that second week I think is going to be the one that'll test them because it's the one where it's like kind of the accumulation of that previous week coming back to bite them. I think the Giants will be a little bit better than they were last year, but I think more so I would expect that the 49ers go into that game looking a little sloppy, and it's a team they should beat, but it's like it's just one of those inexplicable performances from the team. Yeah. I would not be surprised if it's against the Giants in week 9. Another one, let's see.
I would say the Falcons.
Do you have one?
Because I feel like, I don't know, we just always, for some reason, the Falcons can be the shittiest fucking team in the league, and they come in and freaking either whoop our ass or give us a hard time. So like,
weird.
Of course,
right?
I don't want to obviously lose to any of these teams, but just answering the question, if I had to pick somebody, just looking through the schedule real quick. I would say the Falcons.
You're so right, though. Like there are always those games, like every season, that's like just so hard to explain, like why they would come out looking bad like that. I think like my other choice, if I had to give a second, would be week 13 against the Browns. Again, just with their defense, that scheme. We'll have one less day of rest because we play a Monday Night Football game against Carolina the week prior, and it's the week before our bye week. So it's kind of like you're dragging, to that late week 14 bye week. I could kind of see that one, and it's in Cleveland, so late November. So maybe it's cold. That could be another tricky one.
I could see, the Texans, like, it wouldn't shock me, but like, I don't feel like that's like a big of a game like that. Oh, we should win. Like, that's probably a game that it's going to be like, pretty even competition. So, but like, I could definitely see that game going either way.
Well, yeah, we'll see how Stroud looks this year.
Titans, who knows what they're going to look like. Colts. Who knows who their freaking quarterback will even be by that time? That's like towards the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, just looking through, Falcons would definitely be the one that I would pick. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm worried already about this freaking season. I was like so excited, like, okay, 49ers are going to be good this year. They're vibes are up. They got rest. The players are healthy. And it's just like every day, like just like more and more, I just drop my head down like, oh, football season's here.
I know. We're ready to have our heart broken by this team again. Or are we? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I am.
What else you got going on, Steph?
Nothing much. I'll be doing my post game. Actually, no, I'm going to the game on Saturday. I keep forgetting. So I'll be out there. Miriah, you need to find a way to go. But yeah,
I can get a ticket.
Just a quick trip, literally like flying in Saturday and then leaving Sunday. So, just going for the game, and hopefully it's better than the first preseason game.
Yeah. Hopefully, I gotta see if I can get a ticket, but hopefully I can go. People are getting to meet Steph before me. Dawn.
I mean, I was out there for the Super Bowl, and I didn't see you. I didn't see you there.
I'm not rich like you, Steph. I can't be affording that.
But you literally live in Vegas though, so you didn't even have to travel.
That's still giving out 10,000 freaking dollar fucking Super Bowl ticket.
I didn't go to the game. You think I went to the game?
Yeah, you're rich like
that.
that.
I just hung out.
Chat, we appreciate you all as always. Make sure that you're subscribed, like both channels, subscribe both channels. You know, this is the only thing I got going on right now, so make sure that you guys are tuned in with everything Steph got going on. Make sure you guys are watching her shit throughout the week. You guys know how to do it. All right. But yeah, we appreciate y'all. We hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, fabulous weekend. If you're going to the game Saturday, have an awesome time. And yeah, we'll be back next Thursday, same time, same place. Much love. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We're out of here. Peace.
Peace.